Hello, welcome to the channel. My name's Pete. I'm having some problems with the Facebook Bandit. I bought this Bandit on Marketplace for 900 quid. It didn't work, or should I say it ran for 22 miles and then it gave up on me. So I've had carbs out, cleaned them out, replaced all that, done a few little other bits and bobs along the way as well. I've managed to do, well, 528 miles on it since I've done all that. And it's not broken down yet, but I am having some issues. The main issue being the clutch. I'll come and show you, but there's a lot of play on there. So I need to have a look at that. I'm going to be ordering some new bars because these are just, the guy's cut the throttle tube down. He screwed drilled all the holes in the bars to fix the switchgear in the wrong places, so I can't even fix this side. So I'm going to replace these bars and do all this properly and get a new throttle tube. I mean, look at that, my hand doesn't even fit on it. It's been cut down that much. What else am I going to do? I've got the exhaust and I've got the brackets to fix it up with. So this side, that's going well, isn't it? Yeah, the gasket down there, I've got all that ready to go, I believe. I think we're sort of all kind of sorted. So I'm going to have a look at this clutch first and see if I can determine what it is. I've got help with this. I've watched some YouTube videos. Not that they're not much use. So let's see how I get on. So my clutch lever, I've already taken this back. This is completely right up to the bracket there, so that could potentially be adjusted. And I've got, I mean, you'll say that, oh, it's 1/4 of an inch play, but there's nothing there to measure it on, because although there might be 1/8 play, there's just really nothing to measure it on. And when I'm pulling clutch in, I find it difficult to find neutral when the engine's running. So I've gone down here. I need to have a look under there. So that's out a little bit. When we look in there, the cable is not frayed at all. Whilst it feels positive, it goes right to the handlebar. There's my gear lever. I mean, that's a little bit wobbly, but it's not loose. It's only a play in there. This seems all okay down there. That's not got any play in it there. I'm going to take this off and have a look behind there and reset this. This is the worm screw thing. So I know to tighten it up and then turn it out. I can't remember what it is. I've got the manual here, so I think it's 1/4 or an 1/8 of a turn. And see if that does anything to improve. Now, I can't test if it's slipping. I know how to test that now. Because look at the road out there. It's just sheer ice, and I'm not going to go out in there in case it is in case it isn't slipping and I accelerate, whiz off, and back wheel spins, and I won't floor. So first things first is really, I suppose, for me, is try and tighten this up, get all that looked at, take this out, get some oil down the cable. I've got some engine oil to put down. I don't want to be displaying WD-40 because that ends up being sticky and tacky after a while, and I don't want that on the cable. I want it free flowing. Yeah, I'll get on with it. So I've taken the lever off. You can't see that just yet. But I've got this here, look, this is my clutch cable. Now I'm trying to get some oil down there, so what I've done is I've made a little piping bag and just put a little pinprick in there. And all I'm doing, yeah, it's a long tedious job, but a drop at a time in there and it's going down. I'll just wiggle the cable around a little bit. and then that's just gradually getting down there. So I've just got a normal food sandwich bag, little pinprick in there, just made a piping bag, and that's gradually going down. So I'll get that done. Okay, so that's done. Gravity's taken its course. I put quite a lot in actually, so I imagine it'll go right through. Now I'm just going to clean all this lot up, clean this thing up, and I'll have a clean up on lever as well, get a bit of oil on that bit in there where it pivots. I'll just put a bit of oil on this just so that it stays clean and corrosion free really. So I'll get those cleaned up. I'll just clarify I'm going to use grease, not oil, on these parts here. I've cleaned it all up. The amount of crap that's come out of there is unbelievable. This is cleaned up almost like new. So I'll get this side back together at this end, and then I'll have a look down there at that gear worm changer thing. That'll be next. So I've got my lever back together. We're greased up at the appropriate points and we've thoroughly cleaned through. And now I'm adjusting the adjuster and lock nut here. I've got a steel rule. I bought one, so I might as well use it. I bought it a while ago to do the carbs balancing of the floats. So a lot of people seem to think about 1/8 of an inch before it starts engaging, and using my steel rule. I'm pretty much there. So I've locked that up. I'm going to pop this back together, and then we're going to start down there. So I'm pleased with that. It feels much better anyway. Now the next thing I want to do is have a look behind here. This is a rubber cover, and looking at the manual, I need to remove this cover, and then we've got the clutch adjuster under there, which is like I think they call them a worm or something like that. I need to slacken it all off. It's got a lock nut on it, a bit like what the handlebars has at the lever, but it's totally different, but it has a lock nut. So what I need to do is locking it off, loosen it off, release the lock nut, then tighten it up, and then turn it back a quarter of a turn, and then do the lock nut. But first thing I need to do is to get that off, and I think you do that just with one of these. Look, there we go. And tell you what, while that's off, I'll clean that as well. So I'll get the right spanner. I think it's 8 and a 10. 8 or a 10. I've got my screwdriver to undo that. That's my lock nut. And that, no, that's the adjuster, and that's the lock nut. But I'll zoom in a bit closer for you so you can see that. The reason I'm doing all this is because I don't think clutch is behaving right. There's only so many things that can be wrong with it. I've eliminated one. The cable I've oiled up, so we're getting there for that. I suppose I could take this cover off and look inside at any grit and such as all that. Which, do you know what? If this fails, that's what's going to happen. And I also need to test the clutch. But we'll do that on a dry day. Or I'll tell you how that goes. Alright, let me get a spanner and sort this out. So there we go. It says undo this lock nut fully. I've already released it with a spanner. And then it says undo the adjuster screw. I don't know which way that'll go. That looks like it's undone. So then it says tighten it up till you feel resistance. There. Resistance. And then holding this screw in place, tighten the lock nut, and I'll do that with a spanner. I'm going to need 2 hands. Back in a minute. So I've done that. I'm just going to give it round the inside of there a bit of a clean before I put it back together. And same with the inside of that. Look at that, if you can see that. But that is blathered inside there. So I'll give that a bit of a clean and we'll pop that back in. Then I'm going to start bike up. And once the bike's started, I'll pop it into gear and see how well it goes into neutral after that. Failing that, I've got a few little other tests to do, but I would like your ideas on what that could be, because you'll see this video before I get around to doing anything further with that clutch other than what I've just done today. So please write me in your comments, why could it be difficult to find neutral when the bike is running, but yet when it's not running, I can get it no problem. Obviously a clutch problem, but what is it? Please let me know. Let's see what happens first though. So I'll start the bike. I'll see if I can get it in gear and neutral a few times, see if I've done any improvements. Don't like cold starts, this bike. I might have to get a new one of these because it moves. Can't see how he tightened it up. But then again, that idiot's put these bars on and he's drilled holes all over the bars, probably filed off nipples and whatnot. So I'll give it a bit more choke. Alright, clutch feels good, but I can hear a noise. I could hear a noise earlier. It's gone. So it feels taut now. Let's try and pop it in gear. Neutral. It skips neutral and I'm being gentle. Mind you, the gear lever feels better, but straight through neutral every time while it's in gear. Why is that? Why is that happening? There, it's in neutral now. Try and first gear. We're in. Neutral. First gear. Neutral. Oh, it's clicking in there definitely now. Is it because the bike needs to be warm? That choke. I need to fix that. So a bit more choke and a few more revs. Gear. For second gear. First gear. Neutral. First gear. Straight through. First gear. Neutral. First gear. Neutral. Straight through. So it's missing neutral quite often. Neutral. 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 It's working a lot better than it was. I'm going to have to wait for the bike to cool down now because I was going to sort the exhaust out. So it's not getting neutral every single time. Why? Please help. I'll sort the bike out, we'll move forward and we'll come back when the bike's cooled down. So the bike stalled a bit there. I'm not bothered about because I've got an issue with this choke I need to fix and sort out, which I'm going to get round to. I need to get some fuel out of this tank first because it's nearly full. I'll that tank off and look at that. But I also need to get some new bars. I think I need to get some maybe a bit lower because the choke cable just seems to be tight, you know, when it seems to catch. So I'm really super cautious when choke's on and I'm turning with the clutch and whatnot. So yeah, super cautious. Now, as you can see, it's still not getting neutral all the time. I don't know why that is. I did make a mistake in that I did all that testing, but I got exhaust warm, so I couldn't do the exhaust. So I've had to bugger off for a while and then come back when it's cooled down because I want to get that exhaust swapped over. So that is what we'll do next. I'm surprised I've had the courage to take an engine cover off without even thinking about it, even though it was a rubber stopper to do that clutch. And take the lever off, take it apart, clean it up and give it a go. It feels so much better and it feels positive now. It feels like I'm pulling a clutch. I've got an exhaust down there. I'm going to take this one off. I've got to take the tailpipe off and this linkage pipe. I've got a bracket there. I've got like a graphite seal thing there and a new clamp to pop an original exhaust on because this is just so loud. But I'm also thinking it's not being jetted in there to have an exhaust changed because all these numbers match the original specs in the book, which will hopefully make it run better. So yeah, I'll make a start. I'll get that done. And we'll hopefully I can get that done and that'll go on and then job's done. Gonna have a friend come through in a few weeks, I think, with help me to do the dog bones because I've got a scissor jack on the way, but I still think it might be a two-man job. It's a big heavy bike. I don't want to try and do it on my own and then be stuck in a place where I can't do anything further without help. So without further ado, I'll get on with this. Now I've got exhaust off. I've cleaned out all this old graphite, what you can see down here. That's what we're looking like inside now. Pretty much got it all out, cleaned up. But this new one will not fit inside there, especially whilst it's on the end of the linkage and tailpipe. But what I have noticed is them little grooves there. So what I think I can do is splay these apart just enough to be able to get this in, which will then let me get that tailpiping in there, and of course clamp it back on. But I must make sure I've got this thing on up here ready to go before I do that. So I'm going to open these up a little bit so I can get that in. So my concerns are, if I start hammering this, you know, knocking it out, I'm going to upset something up there or even damage it. So what I'm going to try and do is put this on and just move it out slightly. Just give it a little tweak like that, because it seems to be working. I don't know how else to do it really. I don't want to be breaking anything. So I'll go around and do that, and we'll get connected up. When I get this gasket on here and try to put it in there, it slides up here. It doesn't quite cover these holes here where I think exhaust fumes will leak out and make a noise. So I need to squish it down so it slides up a little bit further, and then hopefully that'll go in. Right, so it's a couple of days later since I started this exhaust. I've had to order some nuts and bolts for it. I'm having problems with the gasket. It's not fitting in the hole, so I think I'm going to have to squish it a little bit. I'll show you. So I've popped it on here and I'm going to clamp it to this. Hopefully that'll squish it down enough, flatten it out, just to get it a little bit further up there. I only need it like 2mm, so hopefully this will do it. That worked. So the exhaust bracket down there is on with the gasket. Turn the camera around. There it is. It's not tightened up fully because I've got a nut underneath there to put through onto the exhaust bracket, and I need to get the correct nut and spacer for here, which are on the way, and we'll put those on in this episode. But the next thing I want to do is have a look at that handlebar grip up there, and by that I mean the switch gear, because look at this. Now I'm going to take this off and have a look as to why that is doing that. I'll show you the exhaust because it looks miles better with this on. Look at that. It's just starting to look the part again, isn't it? It's starting to look like it should. I'm hoping this exhaust will quieten it down and hopefully make it run better, because it'll be jetted to it correctly. So while I'm on with this, there's something I want to do, but I'm not going to do. I'm going to pay somebody to do it, and that's these. The guy that owned these has tightened these up far too much, and when I've tried to undo them, the threads come with it. So I'm going to get these retapped or helicoiled to the same spec so that my rack is securely on and it ain't going to bounce off. Look at this gap here. And that just, you know, they'll tighten in a little bit, but they just vibrate loose, and it's nothing to do with thread lock being on, because I've tried that. So I'm going to get those redone. It's only going to cost me a few quid down at local garage, so I'll get that done. I want to take my back box off as well, because I don't need that for the next couple of months. I'll have a quick look at this grip to see why it's doing that. So that was easy enough to get off, just 2 screws, one's there and one's remaining on short cable. So I can see what's going on here. Now there was a nipple there, look, it's been filed off, which should have had a hole drilled in here for it to key to. Now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get another one. Not for now, I don't know. I'll think about getting a new one of these with that nipple on. You can see where it was, just there. Here. See how it's been cut off. So he's not bothered to drill an hole in here, and I know why. Because he drilled a hole in this one and he put it in the wrong spot. And he's had to cut the throttle tube down, look. My hand goes way over there, look. You can tell the handlebar's grip's been cut down. 1, 2, and that much. 1, 2. So he's cut it down about that much because he's put that in the wrong spot. What an idiot. And he didn't want to cock it up this time, so he filed it off there. So what I'll do is I'll clean this up. I'll clean that up, and for now I'll put some electrician's tape round here. Just so it's got something to key to. Hopefully that'll stop that slipping. But I think the reality of it is I need to get a new left-hand switch gear for a Mark 1 Bandit. So I'll take a photograph of this and match them up. I think you can buy them cheap enough, which I don't have any problems doing. Might be worth just buying it with all the wiring loom on there as well. That looks a bit complicated. But anyway, yeah, I'll clean that up and do that. Now I'm off to get some new bars because I need this correct. This needs to be right. These are your controls. So I've got to get a new throttle tube. I've got to make sure that it goes on. I mean, look, that's 2.5, and that's 3. Well, I mean, it's not even 2.5, it's 2 1/4. So I've got to get a throttle tube, and I've got to make sure that this is screwed into the right place. I've got to get somewhat closer to the original bars, but rental ones. I think these are a road high, and I need the road low. So before I fasten that up, all I've done there is just put a bit of electrician's tape around it. Hopefully that'll cause a bit of friction, making it less likely to slip when I'm trying to sort that the choke out. And then I need to check where this choke cable goes and see if it needs rerouting. Alright, so that's on. There's only 2 screws, so when I get new bars I need to get a new one of these, no doubt about it. But that is pretty solid now. It's not really going to go anywhere in a hurry, but by no means is it perfect, but it'll be right. I want to check where the routing of the choke cable is. I need to make sure that is free all the way around, and making sure it's running at the side of everything, because when the bars are like this, it pulls the choke a little bit. Not when it's off, but when it's on. Now I think that's something to do with these bars being higher than the original ones, and him not understanding that you need to sometimes you need to replace things like brake cables, choke cables, and the throttle cables. Throttle cables are fine. So that's my next job. Take tank off and just have a look at that routing to make sure that that's okay. Now, it wasn't too long ago when I was scared of taking this bike apart and the carburetors off and trying to clean them and fix them, but now I'm just doing it. I've got the confidence to just have a look at stuff and see what's going on. I'll show you what I've done at the moment. So my problem is the choke. When it's off, it's fine. I can move the handlebars this way, this down here, and I don't get any choke on. When the choke is actually on and I turn the bars full lock this way, it pulls on the choke cable. So I'm checking the routing, which is this one here. Follow that round. Now I've labelled all these up when I took the carburettor out, so I know that's the choke there. And I can see when I pull on it, it's moving, so I know that's the choke and I know what it does. But when I've got full lock on, it pulls on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off here, down there, and try rerouting it, because it looks like it's getting tangled and up and underneath this stuff when it probably needs to be going over it. This lot here, just giving it that little bit more play and freedom to move. So what I'll do here is, while this is off, I'm going to pop some oil down there to lubricate it. I think the actual problem is the bars are too high for the choke cable, and when I've turned it to the left it pulls on it. So I'm going to make a little homemade piping bag, put a bit of oil in here, snip a little corner off and just drip some oil down there until I get it through. So any sort of engine oil will do. Don't put too much pressure on it to start with. You know, snip the tiniest little end off like that. Get my cable and drip that down. Even then I put too much on it. So what I'll do is I'll continue with doing that. Drops. You can get it running down the cable. If it builds up, just pull choke and that takes it down. Now if I'd thought ahead, I should have probably done that while this was off, but I didn't. Kitchen roll, incredibly useful stuff, not just in the kitchen. Just clean everything up from a bit of oil. Not going to do the metal any harm. Could do the paint harm. So I'll reroute that cable and get this back together. So this time I'm going to choose a route that's freer and over the top of everything instead of around the back of everything, to see if it gives it some more space and room. So I've got that connected up down here. Tank's got half a tank of petrol in, so I need to be careful. I've rerouted it, oiled it, cleaned it, checked the choke lever. Actually it seems a lot more positive to move when we're in a neutral position on the bars and I can see it off and on. So in the off position, my issue originally was I could turn the bars this way with no problem, but then I couldn't turn them that way. Well, I could turn them that way with no problem with the choke off, back to neutral. And choke on fully, and I can see that moving down there. This way I didn't have an issue, but this way would pull and make it tighter. And I've got absolutely no movement down there. So I'll go back to neutral and I'll put about half choke. This should pull it on by turning left. Well, it shouldn't, but it has been doing. I do think it's moving it slightly. Let me feel it with my fingers. Yeah, I think that's pulling it on again, but not as much as it was. I think the bars are the issue. I think they're too tall. I do. I think the bars are too tall for the bike. So I'll get some ordered. And we're going to end this episode here, because the only way to really test that is to switch the bike on, and I can't do that because I ain't got the exhaust secured up here very well. It's just like a nut that's through it for the time being, and it needs securing down there before I switch the bike on. I've fixed this. This is definitely not moving, but we need to get a new one. We need to get some new bars. I'll get those ordered, and we need to get the dog bones done. With a bit of luck, my mate might be with us, and we'll get all that done in a day, in one episode. So in the meantime, the Facebook Bandit, I love it. It's a brilliant bike. It's brilliant. Honestly, it is. Get these done, and then I'm really happy with it. I'll go on a long journey with it. Got to make sure that clutch is behaving itself, otherwise I'll have all that off down there as well. Tappets, leaving them for now. Bike's not broken, don't fix it. So I'll get the tank back on, and one thing I did learn is put all my bits in there, because they're expensive, and I've had to buy an extra one when I didn't need to. So please like, share and subscribe. Keep an eye out for Facebook Bandit videos. There are more coming, and I'm going to take you out for a decent ride on it at some point as well. Take care.